Ducks. There's many types of ducks. We all love them, but there's many do's and don'ts when it comes to their care. The question to be answered is, are we really doing what's best for them? In this interview-led documentary, we will go into a deep dive into what goes into everything duck. But before having my interviewee lead on, I'd like to talk about quickly what two different types of ducks you'll usually see. For starters, the wild mallard. They're the type you'll commonly find near a park lake. Locally, they like to be left alone, but there are cases where they are wild domesticated, meaning people can just come up to them and feed them. The other type of duck are domestic. There's many different types of domestic ducks, but most commonly you'll find white domestic ducks. One name is a pekin though. They are really loving ducks who love attention from their owners. From now, as this is an interview-led documentary, this will be led by Jai, who has hands-on experience with both domestic and wild ducks.
Hi, I'm Jai. I'm an advocate for domestic and wild ducks. Yes, I owned domestic ducks for 3 to 4 years, and I've had a lot of experience working with wild ducks. Domestic ducks are frequently talked about as a cute and easy pet, but that's completely wrong. Especially from a young age, when you raise domesticated ducks from eggs, they have no real sense of predators as well as no real sense of danger when it comes to humans. They also have no real wild instincts and need constant care until they're old enough to live outside. They need constant uses of heat lamps to keep warm and prevent from hypothermia. They need constant access to food and water, but they also need constant supervision as choking is often common at that age, as well as when they get wet, they need instant help drying as they don't have the glands that prevent their feathers from getting soaked. They only gain this either from the mother duck putting her glandular oils on their feathers to prevent them from getting too soaked, or when they become old enough to produce the oils themselves. They also need, once they are past the age of a week old, is adequate clean swimming water. This is because they need to learn to dive and swim, and also it is good for cleaning out their beaks. Once they're old enough to go outside, they need a fenced-in area as they have no real instincts to protect them from predators, as well as that no real instincts on where the boundaries of their land ends, especially when it comes to younger ducks. They also need a place to swim, they need their own place with a flat area for them to lay and sleep. They also need continuous vet care. Vet care can include clipping of wings, removing of parasites, and testing for fleas and other diseases. Specifically, a lot of domesticated ducks, due to overbreeding, can end up with genetical problems that need veterinarian intervention as well. The most important thing when it comes to caring for wild ducks is preserving their wetlands. Wetlands are the best places for ducks as it provides both shelter, breeding areas, homes, as well as places to forage. Wild ducks need to forage as they have no real access to food otherwise. Specifically, they need access to wetlands with thriving populations of both bugs and other small creatures such as frogs. Frogs lay frog spawn which turn into tadpoles and smaller frogs, which are an important part of a duck's diet. Another example is small bugs. Due to the eradication of wetlands and removal of long grass, bugs are not able to thrive as well, meaning there is less diverse food for ducks, and they are an important part of the food chain in our local ecosystems. Without ducks, the whole ecosystem will not thrive. The best thing we can do for ducks with human intervention is creating safe spaces of wetland, as well as giving people information on what is okay to feed ducks. Wild ducks should not become too reliant on humans as they will stop foraging, and it can lead to malnutrition when those humans later on do not give the same amount of food. Another thing is what is healthy for ducks. Certain foods are toxic, others are not very nutritious and can also cause to malnutrition due to bloating. The best thing is for you to feed your local ducks vegetables and seeds. Hello again. Personality-wise, domestic ducks are a lot more friendly and used to human contact compared to wild ducks. Wild ducks will usually flee when they see humans, whereas domestic ducks might become curious and come over. This is dangerous in the wild, as domesticated ducks will often not see predators and will attempt to investigate what they're looking at, which can lead to them being killed. Domesticated ducks come in a wide variety of sizes and colours, often with fancy feathers or overly small or big wings. This is because of different breeding styles for different aesthetics and different purposes, whereas wild ducks tend to be the same sort of size, slim, similar feathers to each other in dark muted colours. This is to hide in vegetation from predators. The obvious and not so obvious do not do's around ducks is littering. Littering is not only dangerous to their waterways but also due to their foraging habits. Ducks will often stick their heads into plastic cups just to get stuck. Another example is they'll eat cigarette butts thinking that they're edible. This is extremely dangerous as it can cause clogging in their beaks and throats, as well as intestinal problems. Something people think is good for ducks, but actually is closer to harmful than it is good, is feeding ducks bread. Bread is extremely dense and expands in ducks' stomachs, but isn't very nutritious. This often leads to ducks developing malnutrition. This is extremely dangerous as it will prevent them from getting enough nutrients to keep up with their movement. This can also cause ducks to stop foraging. This is dangerous too, as when the source of food, for example humans feeding them bread, leaves, the ducks will not continue to forage and thus will die from starvation. Not only littering regular trash and other rubbish is bad for ducks, but also leaving out food. Certain foods are extremely poisonous to ducks. For example, avocados can often cause ducks to have heart issues, as well as other things such as onions can cause liver disease. The most dangerous thing for ducks is modern sewage. Previously, sewage did not contain the chemicals it does now, and ducks can live in human sewage. However, due to the new addition of chemicals that are pumped into our sewage and then released into wild duck areas, ducks can ingest it and become sick from chemical poisoning. Ducks are extremely loving creatures. They don't have... Now I cry. Ducks are extremely loving creatures, especially domesticated ones. They often don't see any humans as predators, but more so as something curious and funny, especially ducks that bond with humans. Ducks I've raised have become really affectionate and even doting on humans, especially with other animals that previously would be the kind of thing to scare them away. My ducks befriended every animal we've ever owned, for example, sleeping in the same bed as the cats or playing chase with the dog. They were extremely sweet and loving creatures with no real harm. Ducks deserve our help and care when it comes to preserving their habitats, but can also be the most loving and fulfilling pets you'll ever have. Thank you for having me on for this interview and listening for what I have to say. I hope what I've said can help you learn how to care for wild and domesticated ducks better.